Gledate emisiju Sporazum. Od kada je najavljeno da briselski dijalog ulazi u završnu fazu sa potpisivanjem pravno obavezujućeg sporazuma između Prištine i Beograda na kraju procesa, pojačana je dinamika između pregovarača koji ne štede jedni drugi u političkim ocenama i retorici. Kuda dijalog ide i kako se na njega gleda iz ugla međunarodne zajednice, večeras u Sporazumu, ekskluzivno sa ambasadorom Ujedinjenog kraljevstva na Kosovu, gospodinom Rorijem Konelijem. Dobroveče, Vaša ekscelencija.
Dobroveče.
Vama, pretpostavljam, neće biti neophodne slušalice s obzirom na to da dobro govorite srpski.
Kad je odgovor je nužan, ali je uvek.
Hvala puno. Naravno, večeras sa nama mladi ljudi sa severa Kosova u studiju na tribinama. Sa njima razgovara Sonja Milojević, inače novinarka televizije Most. Dobroveče, Sonja, tebi i dobroveče vama, poštovana publikom. Još jednom dobroveče i vama, poštovani gledaoci. Ostanite sa nama u narednih sat vremena. Gledajte Sporazum i saznajte šta o Kosovu i svim građanima koji ovde žive misli London. Misterija da li je briselski dijalog samo u krizi ili on i prekinut nakon oštrih poruka razmenjenih između zvaničnog Beograda i Prištine. U poslednje vreme, naravno, razrešena je pre nekoliko dana. Nova runda razgovora na visokom nivou najavljena je za kraj juna. Da podsjetimo, prošli susret, inače treći po redu između Tačija i Vučića, odigrao se 8. marta ove godine i to bez nekih važnijih pomaka. Ova poslednja 3-4 meseca, tokom kojih je i šef Kancelarije za Kosovo i Metohiju Marko Đurić uhapšen u Mitrovici, produbili su, čini nam se, krizu između Beograda i Prištine i nekako nas, kako mnogi smatraju, vratila unazad. Šta dalje, gospodine Konel? Kako vi vidite i šta očekujete od narednog susreta Tači-Vučić sa šeficom diplomatije, gospođom Mogherini?
I think what we really need to see is the big picture. And the big picture is this. For the international community, we have deep and long friendships with both Kosovo and Serbia, probably longer with Serbia. This year, Britain has celebrated, in the last 12 months, Britain has celebrated the 10th anniversary of our relationship with Kosovo and the 140th anniversary of our relationship with Serbia. It makes no sense, and it really doesn't if we think about it, for our friends that we have in Kosovo and in Serbia to have a relationship that's not normal. It takes up huge amounts of energy in both countries, especially in Kosovo, and it's energy that could be spent on dealing with real problems. You talk about a crisis in the dialogue. I'm not sure there's a crisis. I mean, we get crises in the Balkans. They're usually manufactured by somebody. But what we're seeing in that dialogue is a real sense that it's time for Serbia and Kosovo to have a normal relationship, to have a relationship that allows people to interact normally and for both countries to move forward. Now, it's very positive that there is political energy in that there is now a sense, I think an understanding in both capitals that we're entering a period where there needs to be serious talks and serious thinking, not just about how Kosovo works and how it relates with Serbia, but the future relationship between both sides. So I don't think it's a crisis. What I would see this is as a dawning opportunity.
Ali šta očekujete od tog prvog najavljenog susreta za kraj juna meseca, susreta predsjednika Kosova Hašima Tačija i predsjednika Srbije Aleksandra Vučića? Jel očekujete da će tu krenuti taj korak napred ili ne?
I think we're expecting it to keep on moving forward. I mean, we've had a process already with the technical dialogue that is still there, and those agreements still need to be fully implemented because they're in the interest of everybody. On the political dialogue, what I think is important is that there has been more public engagement. There's been public engagement with the internal dialogue in Serbia, and you can see now in Kosovo that people are talking about these things. It's going to be difficult. I mean, any agreement is hard, and so there would need to be political if not consensus, but a degree of political understanding. So it might be that it will take some time to get there, but I think it's very positive, if there is going to be a meeting, that that process continues to move forward.
Iako vi kažete da nema zastoja, negde svima se čini da stiče se utisak zapravo da briselski dijalog stoji u mestu. Pa koga vi vidite kao krivca za to? Šta je uzrok i koje su posledice možda cele ove situacije?
We've got a situation where two states don't have a normal relationship, where there is clearly a political interest to cause problems and to poke one's neighbour.
Obe države.
Yeah, that's dangerous. I mean, it's all it takes is for one person to get it a bit wrong, and it's normal people that will pay the consequences. And so I'm thinking, let's think about last year, the incident with the train. I came to Mitrovica 2 weeks after that had all happened, and talking to friends, they were worried. They were worried about two things. On one level, they were really concerned that this situation was going to get out of control, and that would have real security consequences. On another level, they were scared that the train that they used to go into central Serbia was going to be cancelled and that their lives were going to be disrupted. Who's to blame for it? Actually, sometimes you can look at incidents and you can see who's to blame. You can also look at incidents and see that both sides maybe could take a more mature view. I actually think that we have an opportunity now to build a relationship and help Kosovo and Serbia change a relationship that has been difficult for a long time. I often use the example of Ireland and Britain. I'm an Irishman, an Irish citizen, as well as being a British citizen, and that's a relationship that has been difficult for a long time. And even after Irish independence and after the Belfast Agreement that brought peace to Northern Ireland, the relationship still hadn't caught up. And what happened was a sports match and a state visit by the Queen, and suddenly everything changed. You never know when that relationship is going to be able to change, but you have to prepare for it. But I think we've got now is a situation in Serbia and Kosovo that people understand that the status quo carries risks, that the world is a dangerous place, and it is better not to have those risks anymore. So there's an opportunity. To take that opportunity, it's clear that, in particular in Kosovo, there needs to be a conversation in public, and there also needs to be a degree of political consensus. For people who live in Kosovo, this is an existential issue. This will affect their lives for some time in the future. So this is not something that needs to be rushed. I think the sense, I think my understanding of the process and my strong recommendation is that there's no need to try and rush things in a way that raises tensions or causes people concerns. No one wants to do that.
Ono što je činjenica jeste da su zahtevi obe pregovaračke strane, rekla bih, slični ultimatumima, zapravo sve više liče na ultimatume. Beograd traži hitno formiranje zajednice srpskih opština, Priština sve glasnije traži međusobno priznanje. Pa negde postavlja se pitanje šta je iz vašeg ugla negde prouzrokovalo takvu radikalizaciju uslova?
I mean, there's two questions here. When you get into a negotiation, people act like that. They issue ultimatums, you use whatever power you can have to get the most out of a negotiation. My sense is two things. People are getting ready for a conversation, and you can feel that, and that's positive. What I would want is two things. I'd want the voices of people who live in Kosovo to be heard, and to be heard fully. I think if you're an Albanian, frankly, living in Kosovo, it's easier to get your voice heard than if you're from the Serbian community. But I think the genuine voices of people who live in the north of Kosovo and in Serbian communities throughout Kosovo need to be heard as part of that conversation, because frankly a lot of the negotiations will be about the relationship between Kosovo and Serbia and the situation and the structures that support the Serbian community in Kosovo. So that voice really needs to be heard. The second thing is that the question we shouldn't be asking is about the conflict between Kosovo and Serbia. It's if we think, let's think 30 or 40 years into the future, what relationship do we want to have? So I look at, again, our situation with Ireland and Britain. We've spent many years taking lumps out of each other. But almost on all issues of values, when we were in the European Union, when we're talking about international issues, Ireland and Britain almost have identical positions because we have a similar mindset and a similar outlook on life. I think when the best way to enter these round of talks would be to think, what is the relationship between Kosovo and Serbia that we want to have in the future? There's some positive answers there. It's not just about negative.
Svi govore da je dijalog ušao u tu neku završnu, finalnu fazu koja će biti okončana potpisivanjem pravno obavezujućeg dokumenta, ali negde niko do sada nije izašao u javnosti sa informacijom šta će stajati u tom dokumentu, to jest šta bi on trebalo konačno da znači i do kada je rok za tako nešto.
That's really interesting. I'm going to steal a quote from a British minister from 10 years ago, when he was asked about the final status of Kosovo. And there's never a final status. The only final status you have is, when you die. That Serbia and Kosovo are going to have a relationship that goes on into the future. This is about normalizing the relationship between, for us, two states, so that people can just get on with their ordinary lives. In the future, this shouldn't be the end of those relationships. There should be more agreements. There should be more cooperation. That's that. Both states are heading towards the European Union. That requires a degree of cooperation far beyond anything we're discussing now. It involves pooling sovereignty. So it's not enough just to not be attacking each other. It needs to move forward. Okay. So people are talking about a final stage, and there isn't much information in public. I think there's not much information in public because there actually probably isn't much detail in what's being discussed. I think it's a positive thing that leaders in both Kosovo and Serbia recognise that a deal has to be done, that they recognise and are speaking publicly that there will need to be a degree of a spirit of compromise when they enter into that. I'm more concerned, if I'm honest, about some of the rhetoric I've been hearing in the last few weeks. There's been lots of rhetoric about invasions of northern Kosovo and attacks on Serbs. I honestly think it's irresponsible. I don't think it's true. No one has an interest in conflict and instability in the Balkans. Absolutely not. Why would we have? So there's a sense that as we enter negotiation, I hope the public is more informed.
A kada očekujete kraj pregovora?
How do I expect it? What I honestly expect...
Kada?
Kada? Well, not soon. I don't think this is going to happen in 2 or 3 months, because nothing happens quickly in the Balkans. What I expect is that when the parties enter into this, they will take some time to understand what they want. I think they will take some time to get political consensus in both sides, and I suspect there will be a degree of public conversation as well. I think this is months, not weeks, and I think it's a much longer process. It's clear that the European Union is running this. They've got our full confidence in how they do that, but I don't think people should expect suddenly a deal over the summer. I don't think that would be a sensible way forward anyway.
Vrlo često se može čuti s obe strane da Evropska komisija negde favorizuje onu drugu stranu, pa kakav je vaš komentar na to i kako ocenjujete tim Federike Mogherini u celoj ovoj priči? Da li su dobili prelaznu ocenu? Možete li vi to da komentarišete?
That's what you do in a negotiation. You say that the negotiator's favouring the other side. I mean, everyone does it, unfortunately. I mean, I actually think what the European Union wants is fairly clear. The European Union has made an enlargement offer to the region. It's genuine. No one is spending energy to do something that isn't true. And so what the European Union will want is 2 member states that are functional and at peace with each other. Because if the European Union is going to accept Serbia and Kosovo, that's what it needs. And if we think about interests rather than sort of favourites, then we'll understand how they're acting. They need Serbia and Kosovo to function and to get on with each other. I mean, I think we're talking about, frankly, a relationship where a lot of the parameters have already been set by the Ahtisaari plan. That was itself a compromise. It was negotiated between the Serbian and the Kosovan governments at that time. There's a kind of a process of forgetting how that process worked, but the Serbian government was involved in the negotiations in Vienna. Right, in the end, didn't accept the outcome, and we didn't get to the point where we thought we were going to get to, which was an agreed outcome on both sides. But it was negotiated, and there was a lot of the future relationship and the way Kosovo would be governed included in those negotiations. I don't expect that these talks now are going to change very large amounts. What I do think, two things are important. The first is that the Ahtisaari package gave a lot of protections to the Serbian community in Kosovo. What I think, and I've always thought, is that it's important that what's written in paper is implemented. It's no use, for instance, having a really good language law if
Koje se ne primenjuje.
exactly if no one is translating laws properly, or if the translations come out and it's total nonsense. I mean, sometimes even I can see that the Serbian is rubbish, and
A to se dešava.
and exactly. So, so that's the first bit. How is it? How are these protections really working? And the second thing, I think, is a relationship between the two sides. Ahtisaari doesn't talk about the relationship much between Serbia and Kosovo, but it would be really sad if we got through this process without the foundation for a future friendship, really. I mean, it sounds strange, because that's not how politicians talk in the Balkans and, frankly, around the world. That negotiating partners are seen as enemies, that are seen to get out, trying to trick you or stab you in the back. I mean, it's not just in the Balkans that you hear this. But actually what this is about is about a foundation for a friendship.
Postoje inicijative poput inicijative Španije i drugih zemalja Višegradske grupe da u nastavku dijaloga i one uzmu učešće. Pa mene zanima vaš stav, to jest stav Ujedinjenog kraljevstva. Postoje li opravdani razlozi za to i kakva bi pomoć tu dobrodošla zapravo?
I think, look, my understanding of the way the process is going to run is that, and everyone has said this, there is clear leadership from Federica Mogherini and the European Union. It's going to be really important that the international community supports that process. It's also important that whatever comes out of that process is acceptable and implementable internationally. What we don't want to do is a process that gets us halfway there, and then all of our successors have to come back in 10 years' time and spend a whole more amount of energy trying this again. I think if I was sitting in Brussels, I would think that the countries that have invested a lot in the region will have an important role in selling the process. I would also think that the countries that have got particular relationships with Serbia and Kosovo would be important. Spain has got a relationship with Serbia. Let's think within the European Union. Greece has got a very good relationship with Serbia. Germany has got important relationships with both sides. I would be using those relationships to help that process. What we don't want is 2 or 3 separate processes running at once. But it's clear, you get that real sense that everyone realizes now, and this is the logic behind, and I'll mention it now, the logic behind the Berlin process, where London is hosting the next summit on the 9th and 10th of July. The logic behind that was that 100 years after the First World War, which was started through the Balkans, we should do what we can to build better relationships and to resolve some of the outstanding political issues if we still can. If you look at that, with this progress between Macedonia and Greece on resolving the name issue. If you look at the next issue, though, Serbia and Kosovo, let's see what we can do to resolve that.
Inače, kad već govorimo o pridruživanju nekih drugih zemalja celom ovom postupku, treba reći da Sjedinjene države su prisutne od samog početka procesa, ali negde premijer Kosova Ramuš Haradinaj traži još veće učešće. Pa, da li Amerika može da pomogne u samom ovom procesu i zašto ne onda i Velika Britanija?
I mean, you need to ask the Americans about what America's going to do. But I think, right from the start, all of these countries that have been interested in Serbia and Kosovo's relationship have remained interested. And we certainly have. I think that's going to continue. I mean, there are two things I'd say. The first is, why do we do this? I mean, it's not just altruism. It's not just because, we care about Serbia and Kosovo somehow more than the people who live there. It is in our interests for Serbia and Kosovo to be working together, and I'll tell you why. Because if the relationship doesn't work, then that gets exploited by people who would do us harm in the UK, and in Germany, and in France. Organised crime uses it. Extremists, both far-right extremists, Muslim extremists, would exploit those relationships. And there's a risk of conflict. If you leave things unresolved, there's always a risk that we get drawn back into conflict. It's absolutely in our interests to resolve this. I mean, if you ask my French or German colleagues, they're concerned about firearms that come through this part of the world and end up, famously in the case of France, unfortunately, weapons from Bosnia were used in the attacks in the Bataclan. So it's a strange way of getting to the point that, are people going to be involved? We've never stopped. The interest has always been there. What we don't want to do is have 15 different negotiators.
Zato i pitam, jer Beograd je izvanično rekao da bi se i Rusija uključila u celu ovu priču ukoliko dobije poziv od Srbije. Šta bi to bilo onda, dijalog ili konferencija?
Exactly. So we could get everyone around a table and it would be fun, but what you do need is a negotiator, and we have one. This is it. The High Representative has always been in that position since when Cathy Ashton was there, now Federica Mogherini. They're clearly engaged, they've clearly got energy, and it's important that that's the process that's moving forward. That said, though, everyone has an interest. Just because they're leading it, it doesn't mean that no one else cares, because it's really in our interests to make things work.
Spomenuli ste da će 10. jula u Londonu biti samit Zapadnog Balkana i evropskih partnera sa ciljem jačanja bezbednosne i političke saradnje i unapređenja ekonomske stabilnosti. Šta očekujete od tog samita?
It's really important for us, this summit. The Prime Minister said in the past, and we're leaving the European Union, but we're not leaving Europe. Our interests with our European friends and partners remain absolutely the same, and that means our interest in the Balkans remains the same. The summit and the process that was launched by Germany 5 years ago is really important to keep attention on a part of the world that can sometimes get forgotten, but is vitally important for us. What we hope from the London summit is progress in 3 areas. The first is on, say, security and the rule of law. You don't need to come and tell anyone in Mitrovica how important security and the rule of law is, and when there isn't security, and when people don't feel safe, or when people don't feel crimes are going to get punished, it has an immediate effect. So what we're hoping from the summit in that area is concrete progress on cooperation between police forces against organised crime, for countries to come with concrete pledges against corruption, which is a problem everywhere, and some other initiatives potentially against small arms and light weapons. So the second area is on the economy, where we want to do what we can to move things forward, in particular to give young people economic opportunities. Kosovo is the youngest country in Europe. There is an extraordinary amount of energy amongst young people. I've worked with entrepreneurs across Kosovo. We've supported entrepreneurs across Kosovo, and we want through the summit to build on that, and in particular in the digital economy, which could give a real opportunity. And the third area is on some of the legacy of conflict. And unfortunately, the conflicts in the Balkans still leave open wounds. They will not be healed by ignoring them. But if we can help bring closure, if we can help move forward, if we can help agree that we will treat war crimes and that the countries of the region will deal with war crimes separately and seriously, if we can help families of missing persons find out what happened to their loved ones and get some kind of closure, then it'll be easier to deal with all the other political issues that are still outstanding.
Postoje inicijative da se promeni format ne samo briselskog dijaloga, već i sednice Saveta bezbednosti Ujedinjenih nacija, odnosno da se završi mandat UNMIK-a, da se prorade, ukinu ili zatvore za javnost te sednice, da se prorade izveštaj generalnog sekretara Ujedinjenih nacija, da se preispita važenje rezolucije 1244, pa me zanima kakav je zvaničan stav Londona u vezi toga.
I mean, 1244, it's already...
Između ostalog.
I mean, amongst other things, it's already, sort of, doesn't make any sense. I mean, it talks about the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia most of the time. The Federal Republic of Yugoslavia doesn't exist anymore. So we have already a resolution that doesn't interact terribly well with the real world. That resolution foresaw a status process under the auspices of the Secretary General, which happened. UNISEC and under President Atazari happened. So that's, it's still there, but frankly, I think it's actually been implemented, that resolution. The UN has got a long and important role with Kosovo, and frankly, Kosovo wants to join the United Nations, and we would welcome them in. That's, a sensible resolution to all of this. But on the other hand, we need to recognise the role that the UN has had and the role that UNMIK has had in bringing peace to Kosovo. Frankly, that mission should be shouted from the rooftops as a great success, to come in and in that period of time build institutions that were representative and allowed people access to justice. That's a huge achievement. There's a question we can ask ourselves, is given everything else that's happening in the world, horrendous scenes every day from Syria, Iraq, Yemen, does the Security Council really need to spend hours talking about what's happening in Kosovo every 4 months? I'm an Irishman as much as I'm a Brit. I have family in Northern Ireland. I know what tensions look like, but I'm glad that we don't discuss all tensions in every country around the world. Does it help the communities here to be talking about that every 4 months? Every 3 months, in fact, in New York? I'm not sure that it really does.
Misija UNMIK-a na Kosovu odavno je svedena samo na monitoring, a prestala je izvršna funkcija EULEX-a u oblasti vladavine prava, koji će imati samo od sada savjetodavnu ulogu. Kako komentarišete rezultate, dosadašnje rezultate misije EULEX-a i da li su negde oni zaslužili pozitivnu ocenu?
I mean, look, EULEX, there's a sense you get from talking to people from EULEX that it's done nothing, and I think actually EULEX has been a success. In its terms, EULEX has been a great success. They have indicted people and they've got convictions, and lots of convictions, including for very, very serious crimes. They've worked with the police force, which is a professional force and well trained, but Kosovo has got some... Ali. Kosovo has got some serious challenges in the rule of law. It's got some weaknesses. The judicial system has big challenges and weaknesses, and the prosecutors have weaknesses. We are concerned, and my government is concerned, about organised crime from the Balkans in general. This is not just a Kosovo problem, but it includes Kosovo too. And we need to have a strong, genuine partner that can fight organised crime. I can't think of a single situation where a society's crime problem has been solved by well-meaning foreigners coming in and solving it. People have to do it for themselves, and that's hard, and that's really hard. I mean, I'm thinking of sitting in Mitrovica, I'm thinking about the killing of Oliver Ivanovic. I knew Oliver for 10 years, and that was a horrible shock. And it must have been just horrendous for his family. People talking to friends here, everyone has got a fairly clear idea of who they think is responsible for it. It's not for me to say about that, but one thing I do know is that no outsider is going to solve those problems. The only way that organised crime in a society gets solved is when people find a way to stand up against it, whether it's citizens, whether it's journalists exposing it, whether it's the brave men and women in the police forces, and they exist, who stand up against colleagues who aren't doing their job. EULEX got us to a really important point. It's now time for Kosovo to show that those structures are able and willing to fight organised crime. And that, I mean, now, and there is no time to lose on that.
Ovdje pravimo pauzu, Vaša ekscelencijo. Idemo do Sonje Milojević koja će nam reći kako građani sa severa Kosova gledaju na međunarodne organizacije koje borave na Kosovu i koliko veruju i domaćim i stranim institucijama. Sonja, još jednom dobroveče, izvoli.
Dobroveče, Marija, hvala. Malo je građana sa Kosova i Srba i Albanaca i svih drugih koji bi jasno i glasno rekli da su baš zadovoljni radom međunarodne zajednice na Kosovu i pored ogromne pomoći koja se ovde slivala od 1999. godine do danas. Nevladina organizacija Aktiv sprovela je istraživanje, analiza trendova u kojem je između ostalog pitala na koga bi Srbi sa Kosova trebalo da se oslone u spoljnoj politici. Pogledajmo.
Dve trećine ispitanika je izjavilo da bi trebalo da se oslone na Rusiju, samo 5% na Evropsku uniju, nešto manje Amerika, dok je svaki četvrti odgovorio ni na koga. U odnosu na prošlu godinu, najveći pad poverenja odnosi se na Evropsku uniju. Lane je 17% ispitanika reklo da bi Srbi sa Kosova trebalo da se oslone na Evropsku uniju, a ove godine samo 5%. Srbi sa severa Kosova zameraju Briselu da loše tretira Srbiju, pred koju stavlja uslove koje ona često ne može da ispuni. Smatraju da Brexit pokazuje da u samoj Uniji postoji mnogo više problema nego što to s polja izgleda, što ugrožava njenu unutrašnju stabilnost i održivost. Međutim, jedan od najvećih razloga za takvo mišljenje je u tome što ogromna većina Srba na severu smatra da je Evropska unija u briselskom dijalogu mnogo više naklonjena Prištini nego Beogradu. Da više pomaže Prištini misli 80% ispitanika, a u Beogradu samo 2%. Petina veruje da je Brisel u tom procesu neutralan. Kada je u pitanju poverenje u institucije, građani su u ovom istraživanju mogli da ocene od 1 do 5 koliko kome veruju. Generalno gledano, poverenje u sve institucije je kod građana na niskom nivou. Najmanje loše se kotiraju centralne i lokalne institucije Republike Srbije, koje su ocenjene sa oko 2,6, a najviše vlada Kosova i EULEX, koje su dobile ocene 1,6, odnosno 1,7.
U zadnjih nekoliko godina ti antagonizmi su i povećani i podgrejani konfrontacionom retorikom koja prate dijalog u Briselu. Znači, čini se da Priština u ovom procesu propustila šansu da se približi srpskoj zajednici na severu Kosova, pa i celom Kosovu i u svojoj retorici se učini manjom pretnjom po ono što se građani severa Kosova smatraju svojim interesom, a to je lična bezbednost, sigurnost poslova i strukturne veze sa Republikom Srbijom. Sa jednakim nepoverenjem građani gledaju na rad Kancelarije Evropske unije na Kosovu i posebno misije vladavine prava EULEX-a, čiji rad ocenjuju sa 1,6 Kancelarije Evropske unije i 1,7 EULEX. To su jako slabi rezultati i mislim da su, što se EULEX-a tiče, posljedica vidljivih političkih kriterijuma koje ova misija uspostavila u svojim izvršnim sudskim ovlašćenjima, koje su dovela do neke vrste izneverenih očekivanja u srpskoj zajednici da će ova misija uspjeti da reši neke od zločina koji su se dogodile nad srpskom zajednicom u periodu 1999. pa kasnije. Kao jedan indikativan primjer jeste slučaj ubistva dece u Goraždevcu na kupanju na reci, koji je misija Evropske unije vrlo brzo po svom uspostavljanju napustila zbog nedostatka dokaza, tačnije kako su oni to definisali u svoj izjavi za štampu zbog nesaradnje sa svedocima, a u pitanju je znači jako simboličan slučaj koji ima i emotivni značaj za srpsku zajednicu, jer govorimo o deci koja su bila ubijena u svojoj bezbrižnoj igri. Znači, Euleks nije smeo da napušta takve slučajeve i to se direktno odrazilo na poverenje građana u te institucije. Što se tiče same misije Evropske unije, i slabi rezultati imaju više uzroka. Prvi je percepcija Evropske unije kao instance koja je naklonjena Prištini i njenim interesima. U našoj analizi trendova čak 80% građana severa Kosova je izjavilo da smatra da je Priština u pregovorima u Briselu jako vidljivo na strani, da je Evropska unija u pregovorima u Briselu jako vidljivo na strani Prištine i favorizuje Prištinu. To u neku ruku ukazuje na opet iznevereno poverenje u Evropsku uniju, za koje se smatralo da će posle prenosa nadležnosti UNMIK-a na privremene institucije zauzeti tu ulogu nepristrasnog posrednika između Srba i Albanaca, koja je Srbima bila jako potrebna. Međutim, Evropska unija izgleda, mislim jasno da Evropska unija nije imala nameru da preuzima takav teret, niti je zamrznuti konflikt kao krajnji domet UNMIK-ovog angažovanja na severu bio u interesu Evropske unije. Bez obzira na to što je 5 članica Evropske unije nije priznalo nezavisnost Kosova, u poziciji Evropske unije prema Kosovu presudni uticaj imaju takozvane aktivne diplomatije, a to su zemlje koje su priznale nezavisnost, Nemačka, Francuska i Velika Britanija, pa i takav dominantni stav Evropske unije nije iznenađujući. Druga stvar koja utiče na nisko poverenje u Evropsku uniju je jedna vrsta fenomena, a to je da je sever Kosova trenutno jedini region na zapadu Balkana gde prospekt, to je mogućnost članstva u Evropsku uniju ne igra presudnu ulogu u definisanju lokalnih političkih ideja, vrednosti i tako dalje. Tačnije, da je priključivanje Evropskoj unije nije vrednostna smernica za društvene promene. Znači, nije u pitanju da građani severa Kosova ne razumeju i ne priznaju vrednosti na kojima počeva Evropska unija, niti da ne vide jasno šta bi bili koristi članstva u jednoj takvoj moćnoj ekonomskoj zajednici, već građani smatraju, a to im je više puta eksplicitno rečeno od strane zvaničnika Evropske unije, da se članstvo može ostvariti samo kroz integraciju u kosovsko društvo. A emotivno građani severa Kosova još nisu spremni za takav kompromis.
Slične i gotovo iste ocene Srbi sa severa Kosova dali su i na pitanje koliko su zadovoljni radom određenih institucija. Na skali od 1 do 5 najviše ocene između 2,5 i 2,6 dobile su institucije Republike Srbije. Nešto malo manje novoformirane opštine na severu Kosova, 2,4, za kojima sledi KFOR i UNMIK sa ocenama 2,4 i 2,2. Građani su najviše nezadovoljni radom vlade Kosova i Euleksom, koji je ocenjen sa 1,7. A sada jedno pitanje za vas ovde u publici. Da li ste zadovoljni radom Euleksa, kome je ovih dana prestala izvršna funkcija na Kosovu? Imate kartone, zelene i crvene. Ja vas molim da pristupite glasanju. Marija? 25, je li tako?
Da, ovdje ima 10 crvenih kartona.
I ovde 14, 10, 24,
11 crvenih kartona.
25. Ovde su svi negativni. Ja bih zamolila nekog da mi prokomentariše zašto tako misli.
Pa, pre svega smatram da je Euleks bio više pristrasan nego neutralan, što se najbolje videlo u slučaju Olivera Ivanovića kada je bio osuđen na 9 godina zatvora bez ikakvih dokaza. Takođe smatram da se organizaciji za koju je dokazano da je u njoj bilo korupcije ne može verovati.
Hvala. Eto, Marija, čuli smo šta ovde mladi misle.
Hvala, Sonja. Tebi hvala i dami iz publike koja je i obrazložila svoj stav. Gospodine Okolona, kako vi komentarišete ovo?
It's fairly clear. I mean, it was red cards everywhere. I mean, look, no one cheers on the police anywhere for doing their job. People notice when it doesn't happen, and when it does, they just sort of accept that that's the normal run of things. I think EULEX have had a very, very difficult job here, and I think their mission was vital. When they came in 2008, the Kosovo structures were very young. They were still developing. They now exist. What needs to happen now is that people take responsibility for their roles and for the rule of law. It's really interesting, that sense of what people want from EULEX, and there's a sense of being, whether they're partial or whether they're going after one side. I honestly, my strong sense is that working with EULEX people is that the people who came in from outside were police officers and lawyers. Half of them didn't really understand any of the politics of the region. They just wanted to put bad guys in jail. They didn't care if they were Serbian bad guys or Albanian bad guys. They just want to put bad guys in jail. That's what getting them out of bed in the morning. Do I think that they were sort of biased against one side or another? No, not in any way. I mean, honestly don't. Because, frankly speaking, no one cares. I mean, they come from Belgium or Ireland or Britain, and they don't come to the Balkans because they care about one side or the other. They just come because someone's paying them to put bad guys in jail, and that's what they want to do. They're police officers. But there's a real issue here, which is, if we're talking about crimes, and I've seen it at home and I've seen it here, people have a tendency to see what's been done to your side and not what's happened to the other side. There's one issue. So there were many people during the conflict who were victims of sexual violence in Kosovo. It was a horrendous time in the wars, and we'd seen it in Bosnia and we saw it here. It is a fact that the majority of them were Albanians, not all, because we know that there were Serbian victims of crimes of sexual violence during the war. We absolutely know that. Many Roma and Ashgali as well. And we know that it was many people who were committing these. We know, unfortunately, that it was used as a state policy during that Milosevic regime as a weapon of terror. But we also know that people were attacked in revenge attacks and as part of terrorizing Serbian and Roma populations. We know all of this happened. Okay? A horrendous time. Our view, very, very strongly, is that all victims should be supported and all those who are guilty should be tried and punished severely. When you talk about this issue, though, it takes on a political tone, always. The sense, if you're talking to Albanians, that this was just Serbs who are guilty, just Albanians who are victims. That's not true, even though it is true that the majority of victims were Albanians, and the quite big majority. When there was an installation in the centre of Pristina 3 years ago to commemorate the victims. It didn't have a political connotation, it was just to commemorate the victims. And it was all about the victims. It was carried on media across the world. Australia, Chile, I remember, in South America, US, UK, of course in the region, except not on Serbian channels. So it was on RTK1 and on RTK3, but RTK2 just didn't mention it. Which is a bit strange for an event that was being carried by global news, but the Serbian channels just didn't want to talk about it. And so, when we're talking, I think it's a really interesting point. When we're going to have to talk more in this part of the world about what happened in the past, because we know if you don't talk about the past, it gets repeated. But there is a tendency, and it's human nature, and I totally understand it, to see what happened to one's own community and totally ignore what happened to the other community. And I think that's the next big challenge, and especially if we look at justice for crimes that happened in the war, and especially when Kosovo takes on responsibility from EULEX, that's what we're going to have to be very sensitive about, talking and listening to each other. That's going to be really hard.
Ali kada već govorimo o Euleksu, kakav je vaš stav? Da li bi negde srpska zajednica, odnosno pripadnici srpske zajednice na Kosovu trebalo da budu zabrinuti za svoju bezbednost, naravno, zbog prestanka izvršne uloge Euleksa i negde prenosa svih nadležnosti na kosovsku policiju, carinu, pravosuđe? Kako vi to vidite?
I mean, no, it shouldn't be in any way worried. Look at the Kosovo police. There are Serbs in very senior positions. This is I'm not going to say that everything is wonderful and perfect and we live in some beautiful multi-ethnic fantasy.
Bilo bi previše.
Yeah, it would be a little bit, and no one would believe me, right? I mean, everyone lives their life in Kosovo. But what I do know is that I go and talk to Serbian officers in Kosovo police. When we have worked sometimes with just ordinary matters of cooperation between the UK and Kosovo, sometimes the person in the Kosovo institution just happens to be a Serb. That's totally normal. And that has changed in 10 years. These are institutions that are reasonably good.
Da li se mnogi slučajevi nisu ni dotakli, a kamoli rešili?
This is true. Look, one, that happens unfortunately everywhere. Things don't get resolved. It's not okay. And Kosovo has got a problem. I mean, let's just accept it. Kosovo's got a problem with serious crimes and organised crimes, and it's got a problem of, let's say, high-profile individuals not going to jail when they've been found guilty. That's bad. Do I think, but you asked, should Serbs be worried about this? Actually, I think this is the opportunity. If I was a Serbian MP sitting in the Kosovo Assembly, this is the opportunity where I'd say, I want to demand that these institutions do their job now. EULEX is no longer an excuse for anyone to use to say, well, it wasn't my responsibility, it was the foreigners who should have done that. I'd be going in and saying, I demand that the clear-up rate for crimes against Kosovo Serbs is the same as Kosovo Albanians. Now, we don't really know what's happening. Actually, that's the data I'd want to see, and no one's ever shown it to me. Are Serbs more likely to be victims of crimes than Albanians, or Roma, or Turks living in Kosovo? If the answer is yes, then that's a problem. And the second question...
Ali evo imamo u poslednjih mjesec dana porast nasilja nad Srbima i njihovom imovinom na Kosovu. I kako vi to vidite? Da li je to reč o međuetničkom nasilju ili seriji spontanih događaja? Ili da li verujete ili ne verujete da će kosovske institucije negde ovaj put pronaći krivca i procesuirati?
Look, again, come from Northern Ireland, I understand what interethnic clashes look like.
Ali smo na Kosovu.
Yeah, and we are. And interethnic clashes look like people throwing bricks at each other and burning each other's houses down. Okay, I understand that. We've all seen it in Kosovo and in the Balkans. We know what it looks like. Do I think? All right, let's just say you are a Serbian citizen of Kosovo living in a little village in rural area of Kosovo. Are you going to feel more insecure? Probably. Because you're part of a minority, you feel that a lot of the people around you might dislike you, still have negative feelings towards you. You also feel that you don't necessarily have strong political leaders who will give you some form of protection. Okay, and do you trust the institutions? Probably not as much, actually. If I was a thief and I wanted to go and steal someone's car, do I look for the guy who might have a brother who is in the KLA? Or do I go after someone who I think isn't going to fight back? We know how that works, unfortunately. I went after the attack.
Ali ni policija ne ide u tom slučaju.
What I think is really interesting, I went after the attack on the priest in Klina, which was terrible, utterly unacceptable. When I spoke to him, I was really impressed by that man, actually. He's dedicated to staying there and serving his community. And that's exactly the kind of person that needs support and protection. What I would say is that the police need to show that they're taking things seriously. I haven't seen those data. I don't want to say they're not taking things seriously at all, but they need to demonstrate it. And they need people like that priest, who is young, has his family there, speaks Albanian, is committed to the community. They need him to believe that it's okay for the Serbs. It doesn't matter really what a foreign diplomat thinks. What matters are leaders in the Serbian community. Do they feel that they're getting the protection from the police? And if not, that's what I'd be demanding. So look, when I hear rhetoric from some leaders about organised terror against Kosovo Serbs, I don't think that's what's happening. But what I would expect is that Serbian leaders in Kosovo to be going to the Ministry of Interior, where there's a Serbian deputy minister, by the way, and saying, could you tell me why the police aren't investigating and why this isn't happening? That's what I'd want to know.
Srpska lista, koja inače je izrazila i nezadovoljstvo zbog čega međunarodna zajednica nije snažnije osudila posljednje napade na Srbe i njihovu imovinu, je zatražila i hitne konsultacije sa predsjednikom Srbije Aleksandrom Vučićem. Uputila je predstavnicima Kvinte protest i zbog proglašavanja, kako se navodi, carinske unije između Kosova i Albanije, jer je na granici ukinut roaming i kontrola putnika. Koliko ovo sve iritira susede negde i podgreva negde strahove o velikoj Albaniji, koje neretko možemo čuti?
Greater Serbia was a really, really bad idea. We all saw how badly that ended. Greater Albania would be a really, really bad idea, and it would end in the same way. Look, I'm sure there are people who wake up in the morning and think, how can I reclaim my ethnic territories back? Yeah, I mean, they're the kind of people you'd avoid when you go out for a drink, because most people, when they wake up in the morning, just want to work out, okay, I need to get to work, I hope this job's going to be okay, can I get a promotion, what are my kids doing at school, where are we going on holiday this year? I mean, normal people think about normal things. The borders in this part of the world grew out of a number of conflicts over the last 100 years. Borders tend to change only with conflicts and with fighting. I would love to say that things can be negotiated easily and gently, but they tend not to be, and history shows us that. And I think, everyone can put together a Greater Albania, you could put together a Greater Bosnia if you wanted to. I mean, this is the legacy of the Ottoman Empire, so that people are all moved around and in different places, but all of them are terrible ideas. The positive thing, and you asked what the danger of it is that most people realise that these promises of greater whichever country it is are crazy, because they're only solved with conflict and fighting. And whilst you can convince yourself and your followers that it's okay, actually it won't be. And the one thing I feel positive about is talking to people, Kosovo and wider. Most people realise that it's a nonsense.
Moramo da ubrzamo ovaj naš razgovor. Imamo dosta tema koje nismo dotakli. Posle EULEX na Kosovu u izvršnoj funkciji ostaje samo KFOR. I pitanje je da li najava negde transformacije bezbednosnih u oružane snage Kosova utiče na to da se stiču uslovi da i KFOR napusti Kosovo i kakve bi to imalo implikacije u čitavom regionu?
I mean, no one's talking about KFOR leaving at all. We've actually just increased our commitment to KFOR because we know that it helps the region, and we know that we're entering a period of a degree of instability, not instability, sensitivity. We're about to go through this process with Serbia. It is good that people feel that KFOR is there and supporting and watching. It's a very, very positive thing that this NATO mission, which has been engaged with Kosovo for nearly 20 years, has the most positive reviews of any institution. There's no sense of it leaving. In terms of the transformation, I'd say two things. NATO has been fairly clear that this should happen through a constitutional change. Whatever happens, there needs to be consultation with the Kosovo Serbs, and there needs to be a degree of inclusivity. But, well, I don't know what it's possible or not. I think what's important is that let's look at this force. Okay, I'm not its spokesperson. I'm not paid enough to be its spokesperson or to do marketing for it, but I mean, honestly, the thing they fall over themselves to try and recruit people from different communities. They've got Serbs joining it now. They're going to have this is what I found really fascinating. Serb officers commanding Albanians. Okay, when I spoke to the commanding general, I said, would you have believed 20 years ago that you'd be commanding a force that included 100 Serbs? And one of his officers said, if I'd told him that, he'd have shot me. Look, so much has changed in 20 years that this is an organisation that doesn't cause problems. I mean, I can't think of any incidents that it's had. It's really trying. What I would say is that NATO has been really clear that any transformation needs to be done in a way that adds to stability, that should be done through a constitutional route, that people should have confidence in the future. What worries me is when it's presented as something that is part of a package of threats to anybody. I do not see that force as having ever caused a problem, and I don't see sort of precipitous creation of an army and suddenly KFOR leaving. I mean, that's not anything that anyone is talking about. I was with the commander of the force last week in Budapest, where the Kosovo security forces just built a road to the Serbian monastery there, so they can have access in the winter. This is they're trying. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I don't think this is any reason to be concerned. If I was anyone in Kosovo, I would be worrying about organised crime. I wouldn't be worrying about security forces.
Dobro, vi ste mi ujedno sada i dali odgovor zapravo koliko je Kosovo danas bezbedno i da li, eto, to bi mogla samo kratko, ako nije problem, pošto daćemo i publici priliku da vam postavi pitanje. Koliko su mogući oružani sukobi većih razmera na ovim prostorima iz vašeg ugla gledišta?
I mean, if you're talking about sort of security in general, you just talk to people, and people know. People are not fools. People know what makes them feel insecure, and people know what doesn't. Do I think people are scared of the other side? No. I honestly don't think Serbs are scared of Albanians, and I don't think Albanians are scared of Serbs. I think people are a bit scared of what the other side's leaders might do, and especially when change is happening. And I think people are really scared about organised crime. And I think that's the thing that worries people. They're scared about the influence of organised crime. They're scared about when they see the police not reacting to organised criminals. That worries them. It worries us as well, actually, because it affects us too. So, if it's kind of this wonderful thing of being a diplomat and saying the thing that everyone wants. What would make everyone's lives better in Kosovo is if the police stood up and took on and took out organised crime. That is what would make a difference.
Idemo opet do Sonje. Hvala vam puno na odgovoru. Idemo opet do Sonje. Dajemo šansu publici da postavi pitanje. Izvoli, Sonja.
Dakle, Marija, hvala. Pratite Sporazum. Gost emisije ambasador Ujedinjenog kraljevstva u Prištini Rorijem. Da čujemo da li neko iz publike ima pitanje za naše gosta.
Dobro večer. Imam dva pitanja za gospodina ambasadora. Koji je stav Velike Britanije o formiranju vojske Kosova i drugo pitanje, koja je uopšte vojna pretnja po bezbednost Kosova, pa je potrebna ta preskupa vojska? Hvala.
Hvala momku iz publike na pitanju.
Čuli smo, Marija.
Izvolite.
For the army, very much, whatever we're doing with NATO. And we always do everything with NATO. And NATO's been very clear that Kosovo should do this through the constitutional route. My question for you, a little bit, would be this. Okay, we're sort of talking about these sort of big issues about whether it's done constitutionally or not. Do you feel, the Kosovo Security Force exists, and it's existed for 10 years. Do you feel threatened by it? Because I think most people don't feel threatened by it. I think it just sort of, it's 2,500 people. It just kind of sits there, a little bit of like a gendarmerie, and a lot of work on civil protection. I remember when there was a sort of tragic incident, again, of people drowning in the river. This must have been 3 or 4 years ago. And the force deployed to come and help that search and rescue operation. And I remember that they took off all their insignia, the signs, eagles, all the like, just to come and help. I think sometimes reconciliation happens in the strangest places. I think we've seen missing persons associations of Serbs and Albanians. That should be the hardest place for people to talk to each other, but they get on really well. And I've spoken to Serbs in the Kosovo Security Force who, they're not shy, you know, they are proudly Serbian, but they're happy as well to serve in that force alongside other people. No one wants to do anything, and no one will do anything that will create instability or make people feel threatened. But I actually don't think people do feel threatened.
Ili imamo vremena za odgovor?
To je još jedno pitanje, je li tako? Izvolite.
Više odgovor na pitanje. Ali to je više moralna stvar, jer ne verujem da bi jedna porodica na Kosovu uopšte žela da njegovo ili njeno dete bude deportovano u Afganistanu, Somaliju, u nekoj drugoj državi da služi NATO paktu, nego bi želeo da ostane na Kosovu.
I mean, that's really interesting. I mean, when you talk to them, they want to be measured against, you know, when you talk to the young officers in the KSF, they want to be considered like other armed forces. They don't, no one talks about Northern Kosovo. I mean, genuinely no one talks about Northern Kosovo. They talk about going on peacekeeping missions. They talk about professionalization. Serbs and Albanians all talk about this. I honestly want to see a future when NATO isn't in the Balkans, because the Balkans is working perfectly well and exporting security elsewhere. That is a much more positive future for all of us. You think, but I also know, and it's really interesting you mentioned that, it's not necessarily in this area, but I've known friends from Serbia and Kosovo and Macedonia in particular who've gone and shared their experience of what's happened here with other countries. And that in the future, that's what will happen. People will have been through this process and will go and help others.
Hvala momku sa tribine, hvala i vama, Vaša ekscelencija. I za kraj bukvalno imamo još minut vremena, tako da moramo biti brzi. Objedinit ću ovo pitanje. Kako izlazi se na kraj sa domaćim političarima? Mislim i na Srbe i na Albance, odnosno na predstavnike obe zajednice.
I mean, look, I try not to comment too much on internal politics. I get into trouble when I do. But I said earlier today that you occasionally get the impression talking to people, especially in northern Kosovo, but not only, that they're scared of their political leaders, that if they think that they speak against their political leaders, something bad will happen. Political leaders should be scared of citizens. They should be scared of voters. I mean, you have the power to change these things. It's an extraordinary power. And when citizens begin to realize that, that's a good thing. Politicians should be a bit scared. I mean, diplomats as well should be a bit scared. We should be listening to what people want. We should be, and politicians should be responsible. What I see is, you know, Kosovo's come a long way in 20 years, an almost extraordinary way, from a very horrendous conflict to a place where people are making lives for themselves. It'll only move forward if citizens keep their politicians a bit nervous.
I za kraj, posle Brexita, da li vi kao ambasador zemlje koja se povlači iz Evropske unije savjetujete građanima Kosova da nastave put Brisela ili ne, i da li negde Kosovo ima evropsku budućnost?
I mean, we're in a different position, and our histories are quite different. So I wouldn't necessarily compare the decision of the British people to leave the European Union with the choices that lie ahead of Kosovo. What I would say is the European Union has always been genuine in its offer for the region, but more importantly, the reforms that are needed to get into the European Union are not for the good of the European Union, they're for the good of the countries that are joining. The rule of law, strong functioning democracy, a fair civil service, open and transparent budgeting. These are all positive things. It doesn't matter whether you want to join or not. So what I would say is keep up with those reforms. We'll keep helping. And that's what will bring a better future.
Vaša ekscelencijo, hvala vam što ste bili gost večerašnje emisije Sporazum.
I hvala vama.
Još jedan sporazum je iza nas. Vidimo se ponovo za 2 nedelje. Ako ste se kasnije uključili u program, ovu emisiju, kao i ostale, možete pronaći na YouTube-u i društvenim mrežama. Javite nam kako vam se dopala i šta nam predlažete za sledeće. Tu smo zbog vas. Hvala na pažnji. Prijetan ostatak dana.